My name is Ruckus, and I'm 10-8. I just want to jump on tonight real quick and go over a few things that to me they're quite obvious. I don't see what the big issue is with everybody. We start off with, I have questions about all of this stuff just like you guys do. But when you take a step back and you look at it, it starts to get a little bit clearer and it starts to make a little sense to me anyway. Okay, first of all, what evidence does Ellie have? People are talking about, oh, they got Richard Allen because of DNA, and if they only got his DNA back 5 years ago, this case would have been over already, never would have got this far. Well, as far as anybody knows, outside of ISP and the sheriff's office, we don't even know if they have DNA. The time that Tobe said that on an interview, the Fox 59 journalist actually used an old trick. She asked him a question that had several questions in it, which he answered, and then she took out parts of that question. So it appeared that she said, are you getting the DNA evidence expedited? And he answered, yes, we're getting everything expedited. When he never said that they had DNA. We don't know if they do or not, but he never told her that he had DNA, and she actually apologized to him afterwards. That was a pretty shitty thing to do, but that's what journalists do. That's their job. We don't know what physical evidence they actually have from the crime scene. The only evidence that we know and we're positive that they have outside of the girls' bodies is Libby's cell phone. So they find Libby's cell phone and they're able to go through it, and they find video of this guy with the audio. They find her social media accounts, all her pictures, everything that's on her phone. You can well imagine anybody pick your phone up and look how much stuff's in it. Now, think about a 14-year-old girl. That was her whole life, probably. So they went through her cell phone, and the stuff that they could look at and see, that was pretty easy stuff. Well, then they had to get warrants and send them out to all the social media accounts, her cell phone provider, all of that. And all of that takes time. They have to wait for that information to come back. And usually the way it comes back is through an email. At least back, I've been out of the business for a while, but you get an email with a code. And when you click that code, that thing just populates. And it's a lot of information to pick through. So I'm pretty confident that as soon as they opened her phone and saw all these accounts, people that she was talking to, her friends, other people that she knew, they knew about this guy. They knew right away about Anthony Schatz. Nobody heard a thing about Anthony Schatz for a long time afterwards, and there's a reason for that. So when they got the warrants back and the information back on all of these accounts, he was using Snapchat, Instagram, and he had communicated with Libby on that account. So they're very interested in that account. Now, I'm here to tell you, a few days later, well, actually, a month later, they released a still photo of the bridge guy. Well, then a few days after that, they get a search warrant on Keegan Klein's house. So between the time, it probably took a day or two for them to write up and send out the warrants. So that makes sense. It's about the right time frame to get that information back from the social media accounts and the cell phone provider. That's how they got Keegan Klein's name. He was attached to that Anthony Schatz account. Now, what that account information will give them, it'll also show when it was logged on, when it was logged off, who they talked to, what they said, everything. So if they saw, and I'm telling you, I guarantee you this is what happened, that it was logged on two different devices simultaneously with two different ISPs, internet service providers. So that means two people in two different locations are using that same account at the same time. That tells them that there's more than one person using that account. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out. So, and so they get a search warrant and they go to Keegan Klein's and they take all of his digital media, his phones, iPods, iPads, you name it. And they bring him in for questioning, and he's basically screwed. And this is in February of 2017. He should have been locked up. He should have been locked up right there just for what was on his phone. All this shit people getting deflected with, oh, he said he found that phone in a car in Vegas and all that. Who gives a shit? He has it. It's his phone. You know, it was even named Keegan's phone on there. So we all know he's a liar. So let's, and I hate assuming, but let's assume that Keegan's screwed. He knows he's in trouble. He even said that to the police when they came to his house, that he should have left. He knew he was fucked, is what he said. So the police know that he has all of this pedophile paraphernalia on his phone, and he has control of a Dropbox that other accounts are getting access to. He should have been in jail, folks. He should have been locked up right then and there. But he wasn't. So here's what that means. And there's no gray area. He's cooperating. Maybe not on this case, but he's cooperating on something. And we've since found out that the Keegan Klein case has opened up this big, huge pedophile ring investigation. But I'm pretty sure that it ties into this Delphi murder case in some form, and I'll explain that here in a minute. Okay, so on the 25th of February, they search Keegan Klein's, they get all the information, the Anthony Schatz, the Dropbox, all of that stuff. Now, he's playing stupid. He doesn't know anybody could have been using his phone, yada, yada, yada. I've seen it a million times. He's full of shit, and they know that. Well, then they search, the FBI searches Ron Logan's house, and that search warrant has since been released. So we know what they were looking for. That was a treasure trove of information, looking for bladed weapons, digital media, all that kind of stuff. Now, Ron Logan set up a false alibi before the bodies were even found. That didn't look too good at all. And everybody's saying that, oh, he was never cleared, he was never cleared. I mean, we're talking about semantics here. Tobe used the word, he was covered. He didn't say cleared, he said covered. It's the same thing. They just don't want to say the word cleared because people lose their minds. He said covered just in case they have to circle back around and talk to this guy again. So they obviously didn't find what they thought they were going to find, and he didn't get charged. So Ron Logan's not involved in the murder at that point. Okay, so then they have the presser in April 2019 where they're shifting gears. They put out the photo of the bridge guy in February, just before they went to Keegan's, the still photo. Well, then they did the shifting gears presser, and they put out the video and piece of the audio and the young bridge guy sketch, and everybody's losing their minds again. I'm here to tell you that law enforcement uses the media as a tool all the time, constantly. Doug Carter's really proficient at it. He does a great job. Now the media tricking law enforcement and making false reports and stuff like that. That sucks. That shouldn't happen. That woman should lose her job, at least. But law enforcement does use the media. And they do it for a reason. He knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was saying. He didn't hardly look up at all. He was looking down, so it was scripted. I don't know if it was a collaborated event, between the sheriff's office, ISP, FBI. I know the Delphi police weren't really involved because that area where the girls were found is not incorporated Delphi. It's in unincorporated Delphi, so that's sheriff's office territory. And believe it or not, if you look at the outline of Delphi, it goes right around that triangle of where Richard Allen lives. It's a weird layout, but Richard Allen actually is in unincorporated Delphi as well, his home. Okay, so they get the shifting gears presser. So it doesn't appear that anything's going on, but I'm here to tell you that there's a lot going on. Now, if he gave that account, that Anthony Schatz account, and I guarantee you there was other accounts that he made a couple female accounts. Well, if he gives that account to one person, say a friend of his, hey, check these girls out, check this out. Here's the login information. Well, then he gives it to one of his friends, and then he gives it to one of his friends, and so on and so forth. And it just gets huge. It gets way out of control. So there's a lot of work to be done for law enforcement. A lot. There's a lot of people that they have to talk to. They have to rule people out. That's a pretty serious charge. So they want to get people ruled out as bad as they want to get them ruled in, because that's a lot of work. That's a shitload of work. All right, so then, and nobody still has heard of this Anthony Schatz. Nobody has. I'm sure that I know Libby's sister contacted that account that night when they were looking for the girls before they found them the next day. But she was just trying to cover bases. She didn't know who he was or anything like that. Allegedly. This is just, I'm not speculating. I'm just going by, I've never spoken to this girl personally. So they're aware of it, but nobody's mentioning it. Nobody is. And nobody even asks her about it till after the 2021 presser. So now they're putting this information out. Okay, so Keegan Klein, they go to his house, do a search warrant on his house, take all of his digital media, see all this shit that he has, but then they don't arrest him for 3 years. So for 3 years, he was helping them, cooperating. At whatever level he was, I'm here to tell you, he's cooperating. They're not just watching him, keeping their eye on him. No. He's cooperating. He's snitching. He's singing like a bird. All right, so we get the Anthony Schatz presser, and then Keegan gets transferred, and the Wabash River gets searched in September 2022. Excuse me. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. So the Wabash River gets searched for 5 weeks. 5 weeks. That's not a training exercise. That's a lot of resources there. Now, whether they found something and whether it was related to the Delphi case, I've heard rumors. I've heard, oh yeah, they say it is. They say it isn't. I'm here to tell you, we all know by now. ISP and the sheriff's office and the FBI are not saying anything. So anything you hear that says, oh, well, yeah, that's connected to the case. Carter just did an interview where they asked him about Keegan Klein, and he said that this is such a complicated case, and it has many tentacles, so it's going out in all directions. Now, just think about what I just said. How many people are involved just with that Anthony Shots? He had other accounts as well, in the Dropbox and all that. So it's going to be huge. And I remember way back in the beginning, Tobe said, "You're going to be shocked when we make an arrest on this." And just to touch back to, I know everybody's pissed off at the police, and they think that they dropped the ball and they made mistakes and all that, But what Tobe meant when he said that no, nobody has to worry in Delphi, there's active events and there's inactive events. Like the Columbine shooting, that's an active shooter. The Virginia Tech shooting, active shooter. Well, when you have that stuff, you have exigent circumstances where you can go on private property, you can do all kinds of things, but it has to be inherent and explicit danger to people being injured. And they use tactical investigations techniques, not strategic during those cases. So what he basically saying is that there's no imminent danger. No, nobody has to look over their shoulder. They saw the evidence, so they're pretty confident. Just like these poor 4 kids that just got killed at the college there. The police are saying, no, there's no danger to anybody. But, the killer still hasn't been found. He's still on the loose. But they know that these kids were targeted. So something in the evidence shows that they were targeted, just like Libby and Abby. Okay, so Keegan gets transferred. They search the river. Whether they found something, we don't know. We won't know until they want to tell us. Well, then this guy, Richard Allen, comes into the picture. And October 13th, they serve a search warrant. And they search his property. And they take some items out of the home and from the yard. They weren't collected properly in my eyes. We'll go over that at some point. I'm sure all of you have heard it. I've heard some people on Sleuth's channel. There's a girl named Haley. You can tell she's been trained and has experience in forensics and evidence collection and crime scene, both investigation and tech. So it was crazy the way that they took the evidence out of his house, but they did. So then he didn't get arrested until October 28th. So on the 13th, they do a search warrant and they take evidence out. We don't know what they're looking for. We don't know what they have to compare with. Nothing. We don't know if they have DNA. Someone was talking about animal hair. I haven't heard any of that. The coroner report is sealed. Everything's sealed on this case. So everybody is speculating with all this stuff. I just heard, Richard Allen should have been arrested right away because he told a conservation officer that he was on the bridge, but he didn't see the girls. Well, until that conservation officer steps up and says that, I don't believe it for a second. Not for 1 second. There's just so much bullshit out there. It's crazy. That's why I'm trying to do this, to show a timeline and show what's going on here. So his house gets searched on October 13th. He doesn't get arrested till the 28th. So what's that tell you, folks? They had to send some stuff out to get tested or analyzed or whatever. That's why they didn't arrest him till the 28th. So they definitely found something that they were able to use as factual collateral. You got to give something to get something to make it evidence that you can use. It doesn't mean they found the smoking gun, is what my point is. There's different levels of evidence, and if they get a couple of them put together, and then it gives it more credibility. Okay, so the case is sealed, and the judge recuses himself. Now, I don't care about Keegan Klein's trial being postponed and all that. That happens all the time. I don't care about 4, 5, 6, 10 of his charges being dropped. In those kind of cases, charges get dropped all the time because the victims are not willing to testify. It's not that they don't want to cooperate, but they don't want to testify, and you can't really blame them. So they charge this guy with 2 counts of murder. Now, so they're pretty sure that he's the guy, that he's the bridge guy, okay? But they put 2 aggravating factors on it, saying that he committed murder while doing these other things. And we don't even know which one. I mean, we can throw some of those out right away, but we don't know which one. So that kind of leans towards that maybe he didn't actually kill them. In the state of Indiana, if you're an accomplice, I'm sure you've all heard it by now, that if you're the getaway driver and the guy robs a store and he kills the clerk, you're guilty of murder as well. And that, I've looked it up. I've looked at the statutes, and I've also looked at the coroner's appendix. So they both state the same thing. So that is true. So we don't know if that's the case. So now he has these aggravating factors, right? So those make the charges worse. It elevates the penalty. So now I'm hearing, and again, it's just, I don't know if it's true or not, that he got attorneys and he's pleading insanity. They're gonna have to go for temporary insanity, because we've all seen videos and photos of this guy. He's no crazier than the next guy. Now, he's obviously, if he did kill these girls, he's a psychopath, but you can hide that, and they often do. So what that is, that's a mitigating factor. So he's got an aggravating factor. It says, he committed a murder, caused the girl's death by doing one of these heinous things to them. But now he's saying, well, I was temporarily insane, which is a mitigating factor, which will cancel those out. Now, there's an attorney from the Delphi area that's putting videos out right now explaining all of this stuff, and he's doing a really good job. But he's saying things like, they're not just going to add those aggravating factors. The prosecutor's not going to make his job harder. Well, it's not. Think about it. That's making his job easier. In my opinion, that attorney's not thinking of it the way, not the prosecutor, but law enforcement would think about it. You want to throw everything at this guy that you can. So, for instance, if the mitigating factor, the aggravating factor, that little 2 in the parentheses, if it was, I can't remember what all the options were, but say child trafficking. But what they should have done was charge him with that aggravating factor, and then also charge him with child trafficking, human trafficking in children, or whatever the verbiage was on it. I can't remember at this point. Charge him with that. Charge him with everything that you can, because if the jury comes back and there's one person they can't convince beyond reasonable doubt that he killed the girls, well, they'll say, well, yeah, he was doing that though. So they'll get him on something, and I don't know. Adding just an aggravating factor does not make the prosecutor's job any harder. It makes it easier. And it's kind of making me lean towards that there are other people involved. The case is still open. The tip lines are still open for a reason. There's a lot of people that they're seeing digital fingerprints. They just got to find them. They have to find these people and question them, and either rule them in or rule them out. Investigate them, arrest them. I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot more arrests coming down the line on this case. There's no doubt in my mind. And I'm just waiting. He's got 2 attorneys now, and somebody said today that I think it was CD said that somebody told him that he pled insanity. I didn't hear that from anybody, and I'm not saying he's lying or his sources his source is lying. I'm just at the point in this case now where, honestly, I sound like a broken record. But if I don't hear it from law enforcement, then I don't believe it at all. There's so much shit going on. But I'm surprised that the first thing they should have done was to waive his right to a speedy trial, give themselves more time to get their case built. Now, it's one of two things. If somebody does not want to waive their right to a speedy trial, that usually means they're innocent. They want to get this shit over with, toot sweet. Or it means that they don't know what they're doing. Well, at first, he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know, obviously. But now he has attorneys, so you'd think that they would immediately file for that, to waive that right. Excuse me again. So I just wanted to jump on and just kind of throw my 2 cents in. I haven't really been around this whole podcast thing very long. Haven't been around on this case very long, but it's super interesting. It's intriguing. It's a travesty. It's sad. This is all about the girls, to me. It is. It breaks my heart, man, to think about this. There's a lot of them going on right now. Michael Vaughn, Monkey, and Quentin, and these poor kids. It shouldn't be happening. It's sad. It's a sad state of affairs. But I just want to come on and kind of throw my 2 cents in, give everybody a breakdown of what's happened and when it happened, and to give my opinion on why it happened. It's not a theory. I don't have any POIs. I know that nobody was right about this Richard Allen guy. 5.5 years, not one, law enforcement, podcasters, web sleuths, nobody. He wasn't on anybody's radar. Nobody's. So it's not a matter of guessing. You can't guess. These detectives, they have to do their job, and they have to double cross their T's and double dot their I's on this one. This is a huge case, and you only get one chance to lock this guy up, and he needs to get locked up. He needs to get locked up yesterday. So that's it. That's all I really wanted to say. Sorry that I kept coughing, but I've got a little catch in my throat. But I'm Ruckus, and I'm 10-7.